Hey, Gavin, welcome to the show. As way getting started, give us a little background on yourself.
Hi, Brian. It's great to be with you. My background, I am 17 years, believe it or not, in business to business sales, always with a learning and a technology focus. I'm currently with a company, Orion Learning. We're a digital learning company, so we work with government, corporate buyers to create exciting, interactive online training.
Yeah,
And I manage a team of four sales reps split across different sectors, territories, and I manage the marketing function as well at Orion.
yeah, cool. And you're in New York City. Is that where you are?
I am in with the accents, probably my New York accent. No, I am in Belfast, Northern Ireland, so the other side of the pond. But I've always worked with an international focus. So I've worked and sold to clients in the States, the Middle East, Australia, all sorts of different places. So that's always been a big focus of mine. The world is your oyster.
Ireland's becoming a big sales center, isn't it?
Yeah, big sales center, a lot of foreign direct investments, from your part of the world. Yeah, it's a great place, step into the UK market, step into Europe. It's a great launch pad for a lot of global companies. Yeah, very much so.
Cool. And why'd you get into sales?
Why did I get into sales? Well, I probably fought against the idea that I was in sales for a long time, Brian.
You
So
did denial?
it's denial. Yeah, I did an economics degree, and I always wanted to be a businessman, whatever a businessman does, because that's what my father was. And I
Yeah.
thought, yeah, he's a great guy. I'll be a businessman too. But he got me on at the time to a government program, a great government program that they ran in Northern Ireland, where you actually got paired up with a company to do an export sales business development project for them. And that was my introduction into sales. I went to Australia and New Zealand for that company to find sales
Wow.
partners, and fantastic opportunity for a naive kid of 21. And then I stayed with that company, and then my career has gone from there. So only on my third role. So I tend to find something I'm passionate about, stay with a company to develop there. That's what I really like to do.
And what motivated you to get into leadership versus staying a individual contributor?
See, that's a good question. Well, like a lot of people, you can find yourself becoming an accidental sales leader. And I've always worked in sort of small, medium enterprises where perhaps you might have been, first or second in the door. So you sort of get maybe given that role based on the results you're able to achieve. It's something I like doing. I like trying to shape how a team sells, and the sort of values that they have whenever we're hiring them. So I suppose accidental manager, but it's definitely something I enjoy, in terms of trying to drive results, because you soon realize there's only so much you as an individual can do. You need a team, you need a whole company sort of pulling with you in sales. And sometimes we can forget that.
Well, I mean, when someone becomes the accidental, it's usually because there's either nobody else, so you tend to be already playing that role without either knowing it or being told to do it. People kind of look to you. You're the go-to person.
Yeah. Well, for
Is
for me, for me, like I'd be hiding if I didn't have personal ambitions. I think when like a lot of salespeople, when I made the last move to my current company, which I've been with 9 years, I joined initially as the only sales exec, and now I look after sales and marketing and client
wow.
services director. So part of that's just been results, but you moved for that opportunity of the intent that the company had to add a team. So that was how it was a way to progress within small businesses. You can build a team and you can build a sales culture, and that's really interesting to me.
And how big is your team today?
We have four reps focused across different sectors, so into healthcare or into government and commercial as we group it, and then we have two in marketing. So it's still a relatively small team.
Yep.
We ask a lot per head, in
Yeah.
terms of targets, and we've had some really great wins, over the last number of years.
And how have you been able to kind of learn the marketing thing? Because that's kind of a whole nother world, right?
Yeah, well, my marketing manager would tell me maybe I haven't learned it
You haven't
yet.
learned it, just stay out of the way.
Um, for me, it's kind of it goes back to what is sales and what is marketing, and where my strength is understanding of the buyer, and that empathy for the buyer.
Yeah.
And then I have ideas that around what the buyer would need, the kind of messages we should be talking about. So you quickly start to shift into into marketing. And then it's a role of my marketing manager, my marketing team, to help bring ideas for those conversations to happen.
Yep.
It's very much a consultative sale that we have at Orient. So, I come up maybe with the bigger aims and the goals, and they interpret that into what tools to use, what types of content, what format of events to run to get that message across in the best way. So it's centered on really that core understanding. I think getting sales and marketing to talk well together, like what is the buyer pain point? What are they really looking for?
Right.
How are we going to be a little bit different to surprise and delight them?
Cool. And was this your first time in leadership at this company?
No, previous role. So small businesses, you get asked to do a lot of things quite early. So I managed the team in a previous role. So yeah, I maybe grew into that. A couple of people left. They were bringing in some junior staff. That was my first taste of management, and then I made a more deliberate move into sort of high growth area of online learning.
And what do you look for in a rep? What's your kind of model?
Well, you need character and competence are the two biggest things that I would say. And we can teach the competence around sales. We can't teach personal values, integrity, honesty, empathy. We can develop and hone those skills, but I think we try to get people to have character. I talk about values-based selling. Like, is this kind of person you'd want to do business with, particularly in a consultative sale? Are they intelligent? Are they articulate? Would you want to be doing business with them yourself? Because if the answer is no, well, they're not. They're certainly not for me anyway.
Yeah. And how do you determine that in the interview? Is it just a feeling?
Tough. Or? It's tough. There's a bit of gut feel. We do like with our interviews to give tasks that if not are a mirror of the job, that certainly at a second interview we'll give somebody a hypothetical client problem, which is what we spend all our day solving with digital learning. We'll give them a hypothetical problem, just to see their thought process around it. Yeah. And if they're coming back like, they're only interested in maximizing revenue sort of at all costs, they're not going to be for us. If they're showing a creative approach to problem solving, those are some of the things that we have in our company values that are going to stand out to us. We're going to recognize that in that task. So, at the end of the day, there's only one way to know. We're in a results way in sales, so you got to get them into the role. But certainly, if someone's showing those traits, you're going to be prepared to take the necessary gamble on them.
Have you looked for certain things in their background? Sports, performance, military, some sense of adversity?
Yeah, I think I always look for, are they comfortable with their personal successes? Yeah. Whenever you read a resume or a CV, if there's not a sense of achievement, I started, particularly in sales, I wonder, well, what have you been doing with your time? Now, if they list out the previous job advert when they're actually talking about what they did, I'm interested in what people did in their role. So if they can come in and say, I landed the biggest client that the company ever did, and that they're confident enough, but not arrogant, to be able to communicate that. So there's nothing wrong with achieving. Salespeople should be achieving. Yes. They should be comfortable with revenue. They should be comfortable with closing deals and closing sales, and they should have a list of personal accomplishments. You've really got to look for those personal accomplishments. If they're just describing what their previous employer did, and that they had no personal role in that, again, that's not for me either.
Right. I was responsible for. It's like, no.
What did you do? Is there no numbers? I went over my revenue consistently, including the biggest deal in the company. I closed 20 new customers in a vertical. I had the lowest cost of sale of any rep. They have some sense of their own place, their own achievement.
I can't tell you the number of resumes I've rewritten for friends to go from, I covered this territory, to how many deals did you do with who, what percentage of quota, what was the biggest deal, name the companies you sold to. That's what managers want to see.
Oh, definitely. It's one of the most common problems, because you don't have to be a genius to land a role, particularly if you're in sales. You should be able to, arguably, you should be selling yourself into every role and then deciding, do you want it or not after?
Right.
Yeah. So if you haven't tailored your CV to what this company's doing, what they're looking for, then that's a big red flag, because you're not going to tailor a complex solution to the needs of a particular client. You're going to try to lead with a boilerplate.
And on the character side, have you mapped out exactly what it is? Because I've kind of found a pattern, and I'd like to hear from you about maybe your perspective on it.
Yeah, like I think honesty and integrity. Like at Orion, we are focused on long-term multi-project relationships. We're an extension of their learning and development team.
Yeah.
And their tech team. We're advisors. So if you can't resist the urge for a short-term sale in favor of a long-term relationship,
Yeah.
that's going to be a real problem, because we have some clients we've worked with right from the company's inception, 20 years ago, and we've got to continually add value to what their challenges are now. And if you're only going for a traditional quick win sale, which is why I maybe fought against the idea of thinking I was in sales, and we're called client services rather than sales, because I sort of think we're there to serve, and the sales are a natural byproduct of how we go about business. So we haven't necessarily mapped it out in detail, other than I really liked your approach to the outward mindset. I was looking at that the other day, and we do have empathy, we have integrity, we have honesty there within our sales values.
And those are kind of higher levels or evolved skills
Mm-hmm.
that we typically don't get, well into our 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're typically caused by having to live alone, be responsible for someone other than ourselves, a pet, a person,
Mm-hmm.
a child.
Yeah.
And then we start to think about other people, take care of other people, because that's what
Yeah.
we're doing if we're taking care of our client.
Yeah, no, it's not, I'm not saying it's easy to find. I think maybe I
Right.
have benefit that I'm not looking for 50 of these people at this point on our growth curve. I'm looking for one or two. But then for me, taking time, going through multiple cycles of recruitment, I'm prepared to do that, because the difference between me finding the right person could run well into 7 figures and more. So if I could take the time to find the right person rather than just fill a sales slot, I'm prepared to do that.
Yeah. And have you made any hiring mistakes?
Yes.
Is that how you kind of learned this, or was it kind of?
Well, I think it definitely gives you, reflection is a massive thing in sales, particularly in consultative sales. We talk about, looking at the deals that we won, that we thought we were fantastic. We did everything right. Well, we didn't. And hiring's just the same as that. If you don't reflect, well, okay, why didn't that work out? Was it, did I rush into it? Did I read too much into something? Did I see something? We don't have a massive trail of destruction in our wake by any stretch. Most of our current team have been with us for a number of years, and we're adding to that team. But yeah, reflection is a massive thing that I encourage across all areas of our sales and marketing efforts, both when it goes badly and when it goes well. Because if you're not reflecting, even it's good learning practice, if you're not reflecting and improving, then have you really learned anything?
Yeah. Because there's other skills, certainly from what I hear about your sale, things like focus, prioritization, judgment of what to work on, how to work on it.
Yeah.
And sometimes the downside of the outward mindset can be that you're not thinking that way as well, that you don't have the inward mindset too.
Yeah. No, it's a balancing act. Don't get me wrong. We have our CRM system there. We obviously look at our outcomes. We look at revenue as our biggest metric, but we have other things that we don't call KPIs. We don't have KPIs around proposals, but we have what we call indicators. So, if you're doing your revenue and you're doing it, you got good client satisfaction, those are probably the two biggest for us.
Yeah.
And generally, you're doing a great job, and we'll leave you get on with it. Great, fantastic. In a small business, we don't need to be micromanaging people. If you're not hitting your revenue, then some of these other indicators are useful for us to say, okay, well, there's no proposals going out, so what do we need to look at around, prospecting or, marketing campaigns to help you. So it's a balancing act. Like at the end of the day, we exist. You can have all these airs and graces about, empathy and these softer skills, but we exist to drive the growth of the business through revenue.
And how often do you see people working on deals that you don't think are going to close? I mean, part of the problem in sales is like we tend to go route of least resistance, but that sometimes isn't the route of most revenue.
Yeah, I talk about fishing grounds. You can catch a fish in pretty much any body of water. I'm not a big fisherman, by the way, but you can catch a fish anywhere. But there's places where you're going to catch more fish.
Yep.
So, there's been times where I've let some of my reps try to prove me wrong. I'm going to close this this type of company, but I think that's where my experience helps them to tell them where the best fishing grounds is.
Yep.
Not what necessarily what bait to use, what rod to use, but I can tell them how to save time, and it's up to them if they listen to that. So sometimes I let them run a little bit and see what they can do. Other times I say, look, we've done that before, and if I can share anything with them, it's the lessons that I've learned. That's my role, is not to tell them what to think or what to say. It's to give them a framework by which they can make these decisions for themselves.
And that's it, because in sales, it's much more like a heuristic than an algorithm, meaning that
Yeah,
it's, there's usually a cause and effect,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, absolutely. So I've worked in teams before, colleagues and team members reporting to me where they can just get results, so you've got to explore, like, why are they getting results. But if they're largely getting results, the bit I would add to it is, how are they going about doing it? Is this going to reflect well on the company?
Yep.
Is this going to be sustainable and positive for long-term client relationships? But if the answer is yes to both questions, get out of their way and let them get on with it. If you're not seeing the results, or there's development areas, then you're into sales coaching. So sales coaching rather than management. It's a framework to allow them to make decisions. They learn nothing if you give them, in our sale, if you give them a script or a fixed cadence, that wouldn't achieve anything for us. It certainly wouldn't be how I would want to work, or how they ultimately would want to work. So.
Yeah. And let's talk about the coaching part. Do you have a particular style of doing that, or process?
This is something I suppose I'm trying this year. This year we have a big focus about our individual contributions within our team. And that's probably one of the hardest things about sales management, is letting go. I've paced a few virtual halls recently, outside of the meeting, letting it happen. Wonder what's being said in there. You got to let people thrive on their own. You got to let them out of the nest. So, we do shadowing. We do shadowing at different bits, but I try actually to try and more now to let them out of the nest, and because I know if I'll go in, I'll dominate the conversation, and
Right.
I can't stay quiet. So
Well, I think it's good to, like, before the call and after the call, but probably not during the
yeah,
call, right? Because it's like,
yeah,
okay, what do you think they're going to say?
yeah, yeah. So we talk. We do reflect. Again, that reflection comes in. What
That's
was great
key.
about this week? What was great about that call? What could have gone better? And I did do a simulated task, went through the different stages with a hypothetical client, where I played the role of the difficult client. It
Yep.
wasn't so much about the role play of what to say or how to handle objections. It was to demonstrate that if you ask the right questions, you could actually unearth a much better opportunity. And then we capture those, because we're a learning company. We capture those into what we call job aids, things
Yep.
that can help them to frame the conversation. Reminders. They don't have to fill it in word for word in a call, but it prompts them in the middle of heat of battle, when the client's giving indicators that the call's over, and they realize they haven't captured this information. They can say one final question. So it's job aids to help people do their jobs, not scripts to tell them what to say.
Oh. And how did you evolve to this? Was this something you just naturally knew, or did somebody before micromanage you, or?
I think through different sales environments, you pick up good and you pick up bad. And I've been in situations before where our team was going great relative to another team, and yet we had to be in daily stand-ups because they were in crisis. And we're like, well, we're doing great. Just let us get on with it. So I think you pick up lessons that shape you, but it's probably driven by, again, it's problem solving. In our learning challenges that we work on is problem solving. And if you can be someone that somebody wants to work with, and someone's useful for their problems, and it's almost coincidental that has money attached to it. That's the way I sort of view it. So, there's revenue attached to it, and we can achieve that, but that's a byproduct of doing the right thing. So that probably comes from combination of family faith sort of background. That's what drives my decision making.
And you came highly recommended by your team. What do you think motivated that?
The fact that probably I share I share a lot of your content,
My
Brian.
videos.
So like, you'd love to talk to Brian directly. We don't have a massively hierarchical team, within a small business. I don't think you can afford that. We need individual contributors. So if there's anything that I'm proud of, is that we have a collaborative team and we all help each other. And I like to think that, I can learn from my team as well. So I think it was probably a reflection of that, combined with the fact that they knew I'd love to chat to you.
Yeah. And I got to imagine you got 4 reps, you got the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
Prioritization must be real. Do you get enough inbound to keep them focused, or is there cold outbound as well?
Yeah, we don't do any cold outbound really. We get a lot of referral business, and cross-selling within accounts. So learning is one of these great areas that if an organization has one learning challenge and you can prove yourself, that's not the only learning challenge they have. So on the international side, as a small business, you also have to weigh up the risk. We can't just run around every country, but we've from Northern Ireland, we've serviced Fortune 500 clients in the States. A relatively small business. We have 35 staff overall, but we've worked with some really big companies in the States. We've worked in other parts of the world, and we've worked more locally. So I think having a sector focus has helped for us, that they can learn the particular learning lingo, perhaps of the health sector or the government sector, and they can be providing advice around those challenges that our buyers have in that sector. But yeah, we sometimes we got things that sound like a great idea, and we just have to think it through. Like, is this going to distract us? Economics, if it's responsible for anything in my background, it's for teaching me things like opportunity cost and Pareto's law and all these things. So that the opportunity cost is a really great way. Any decision you make has opportunity cost. So if you're going to go after a particular prospect, you're not going after another one. If you're going to develop a particular account, you're not developing another one. So sometimes we just plan out what's your best case scenario here, what's your worst case.
And has that economics focus or education helped you in sales leadership?
I think it has. I'm comfortable with figures, even the more complex size, that helps, reporting to others, and that helps, I'm quite analytical and logical. It helps looking at, my top 20 customer accounts, like how they're faring year on year. How where are the opportunities to develop, looking at some metrics that help me make decisions. So yeah, it gives you that background, but the other side is that economics lives in a hypothetical world. Economists imagine they have, if all things being equal is the phrase, they imagine if the problem didn't exist, what would we do? So it helps me to be ambitious, but also to deliberately try to be realistic about the decisions I'm making in sales leadership.
Yeah, well, it helps you model the world, which is interesting that you value so much that outward mindset, the character part, which is intangible.
Yeah. And optimism as well. The international has always been a big part. We live in a very small place compared to where you live, Brian. In Northern Ireland, I think we have less than 2 million people. So Northern Ireland is very export focused and has always looked out. And I've always done that from day one of my career. So I see the world as different marketplaces, and maybe I need to change what I'm doing and understand the marketplace better. But we don't put limits on our team to bring ideas of where they feel the opportunities are. Obviously, we have to defend that to the business, to others, to each other. But the world sort of is your oyster. So why not go to the States and work with Fortune 500 companies unless you don't believe in your proposition or your ability to do it?
Yeah. And what's the hardest part of your job?
The hardest part of my job is probably that letting go, and I've embraced that really deliberately this year. That I know to go to the next level of our growth, I need other people doing what they do, not necessarily doing it exactly the way I do. So I need to give them that decision-making framework, but they need to, have their own successes, where I'm not just sitting on their shoulders. So that's probably the hardest part. I thought I am laid back by nature, but I'm perhaps more of a control freak maybe than I thought. So again, self-reflection.
Yeah.
That's something to be aware of, and to equip my team with what they need, and then let them fly.
And how do you catch yourself? Do you, because I'm sure you see something going a little awry or you're uncomfortable.
Yeah, part of it is, the team themselves. I would like to think, my team would say if they had a problem with me or my style on something or my opinion on something, that they actually can say. We don't fall out in our team when we disagree. So there's nothing worse than a manager who rules with an iron rod and can't be challenged, can't be questioned. Occasionally we'll disagree, and I'll say, okay, prove me wrong that that's a great opportunity, or what's making you say it's a great opportunity. But so they don't need me. We always get people who have some level of experience and some level of success, so they don't need me to tell them, to spoon feed them. So that's a big part.
Because I always found the most value was when a group, at least two, maybe 3 to 4, got together and talked through deals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, that reflection. So we would review weekly. We review deals, weekly, success stories. We share success stories internally. We share problems internally for ideas from the whole group. We look at a bit of a quarterly review. Now, we don't waste our time doing it. Like we're halfway into the next quarter.
It's only 4.5 days.
By the time we're halfway into Q2, by the time we've settled on what Q1 was, so that's important. But it's bring your problems, bring your challenges, share those with the team, get input and insight. Because likelihood is, if you have open dialogue, you'll actually find out one of your team or one of your colleagues has actually done the same thing before,
right?
And there's a lesson to be learned. So I would encourage sales teams to really have that open dialogue, and not assume just because it went well that everything was great, not assume that it went badly necessarily that everything was done badly.
Well, yeah, because as a rep, you tend to be a little too close to the deal.
Yeah.
Somebody who's had the distance and the experience, or a deal like it, could say, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, and that opportunity cost is massive. So a team member, it might land a big deal, but we say, reflect, look what it took to do it.
Yeah.
Like, how many other deals of this type could we have found, could we have done? So balancing up that opportunity cost is part of it as well.
And that's critical, because that opportunity cost is the most expensive.
Yeah, absolutely. When particularly the less resources you have within a small business, the more that becomes pronounced. So you can certainly develop new markets, new service offerings, new propositions, but you have to rely in part on where the good fishing ground is. Where is the highest likelihood of success here? Where's our sweet spot?
Right.
Yes, we could do this, but is that going to require a change, of the technical services, for example, that our team have to provide? Where is our sweet spot? So a good sense of self, both on an individual basis, but also a good sense of the company.
Yeah.
What is your company good at? What are they not good at? And don't just go selling things that you're not going to end up with a happy client.
Right, because a lot of people feel good by just doing something, not doing something that sells something.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to be a busy fool. So judgment is a big part. So that's around individual decisions. So it's having that sense of say what the company does, that is it driven by values? I'm not entirely sure, but it could be your personal values. But if you're empathetic to your clients but not empathetic to your colleagues, nobody's going to want to work with you. If you're empathetic to your colleagues but not empathetic to your clients, you're not going to achieve results.
Don't buy anything from you. Cool.
So it runs across everything.
Great. Hey, this has been a great conversation. Where can people go to connect and follow you?
You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Gavin Woods. Aurion Learning is the company, aurionlearning.com, AURION. Always spell it.